In every game, the user interface gives the player vital information and creates an engaging experience for the player. And making the user interface can be quite challenging. So in this video, we are going to be looking at how the Godot UI system works and how to use it. We'll begin by explaining how to create a basic GUI scene in Godot, and we'll cover other concepts like anchors and theme once you open your Godot project. In the same dock, there is a button labeled User Interface, and when we click it, it's going to add a control node, and a control node is essentially a base node for all GUI elements. So nodes like the container or label or panel all inherit from the control node. Now I'm going to rename this to main and set this as our current scene and hit save. Alright, so we need to display something. Let's try displaying a text. So I'm going to add a label node, which is used for displaying text on our screen. Then I'm going to write hello there with a smiling face emote. Alright, so we run our scene again. And great, so you can see our text is at the top left corner of our screen. So let's make the text centered, and we also want to increase its size. So let's start with how can we center the text. Well, the label has this rectangle with dots on its vertices and edges, and we can drag and expand this rectangle to fit the screen. And if we take a look at the inspector, the label has these two properties, horizontal and vertical alignment, which I am going to set both of its properties to center. And now our text is centered on our screen. Great. Well, no, actually, because now our text is taking the entire screen size of our screen, and we don't want that. We just want our label to take a specific portion of our screen. So I'm going to reset that. And if you look closely again, you'll see these green pins, and these are called anchors. And anchors define how the position and size of a UI element should be relative to its parent container, ensuring a consistent layout across different screen sizes. And talking on screen sizes, if you are looking for the best resolution that fits for your game, Godot has an amazing documentation for you to check out, which I have linked in the description below. Now back on our anchors, make sure the label node is selected, and under the layout section, change the layout mode to anchors and change this to custom. And some new properties should pop up, and we'll be looking at just the anchor points and the anchor offset property, or you can also refer to it as the margin property. Each anchor offset have an individual anchor that can be adjusted between 0 and 1, moving its anchor point from left to right or top to bottom of the parent. So if I drag this left slider, it's going to move from 0 to 1, and now the label is at the top right corner, and in the inspector both the left and right points are 1. And as I mentioned earlier, the horizontal anchors are just from left to right, so 0, that is from 0 to 1 of its parent, and on the vertical anchors from top to bottom, so also 0 to 1. So if I try resizing the main, let's drag this to the center and move the anchor points again at 1, is going to stop at its center too. Alright, let me just reset all this back to how it was originally. Also, I forgot to mention, when you adjust the anchor point, the rectangle size will be changed to maintain the offset between the corners of the rectangle and the anchor point. Now, to center our text, all we need to do is to just set each anchor point to 0.5. So right was also set to 0.5, and for top 2. Now our text should be centered on our screen. If we try changing the size of the main, our label text always remain at the center even if we expand the size. Let's try changing the anchor to a different position, maybe the top left. Just drag the anchor points to the top right corner. So I will just drag all 4 pins to the top right corner of our screen. Alright. In the inspector, the anchor offset value of the left, right, and others has been changed, and that's because the anchor offset refers to how far a node is positioned from its anchor point. We'll see how it works soon enough, but now let's drag the node next to its anchor point. Let's do the same by trying to resize the main, and as you can see, it remains as its top left corner, only the position is changed. So let's see what happens when I set its anchor point to the center but place the node right here. So we need to change the anchor points of each anchor. So I will set left to 0.5, top to 0.5 as well, then right to 0.5, and we'll just drag this to the top corner. We'll do this again. So it's centered, but it's always going to take the offset into account, right? So it keeps its distance from its anchor point as we placed it. Okay, so I'm just going to reset the anchor offset values. So I'm going to set the offset left to a -50. The negative value makes it move to the left. We'll do the same for the top. And if we head over to the main and stretch this, our text is properly aligned in the center. Alright, now an easier method. Instead of manually adjusting the offset and anchor point value, you can use the anchor preset above the viewport. Besides centering, it gives you many options to align and resize the control nodes. So this is like what we've been talking so far, but like 10 times faster. So you can anchor it to any corner or side that you want, or make it take the full screen size. Alright, let's run this and see how it looks. Okay, so the label text is placed at the center of our screen, and if we expand the window, it still stays at the center. Even if we resize the window, it is still being placed at the center. Great. Now we want to increase the text size. To do that, we will need to change the font size in the theme. So theme override section. And there are a bunch of other properties you can change, like the text color or shadow, also is font size as well. You can add a font and change its font size. Let's say maybe 50. Okay, let's increase it to 70. And we'll select the font shadow property. Yeah, this is looking very nice. So we'll run the scene again. Great. So we have a large text that is aligned at the center of our screen. So hello there. If you found this video useful, consider dropping a like and let's move to the next section. Let's start by adding a control node. Then let's rename the node to main. Alright, so we'll need a background. So we'll add a ColorRect and set this to take the full rect. Now let's change the color to yellow. In the asset folder, there should be a yellow button image and we'll use its color. And we'll use the color picker tool. And now we have a yellow background. I'm going to rename this to background and let's add a TextureRect node. So search for the TextureRect and hit enter to add the node. The TextureRect requires a texture and I'm going to look for the blue panel in the asset folder and then drag that to the texture property. Alright, now I'm going to hold down the shift key and resize the panel so it scales properly, and with the anchor preset we'll set its anchor to the center. Now our blue panel texture was centered on our screen. Alright, I'm going to rename this also to blue panel. Then I'm going to add a label node. So search for label, alright, and add a TextureRect as a child of the blue panel. So TextureRect, and in the asset folder we'll drag the gray panel to the texture property. Alright, and set its anchor to the full rect. Alright, I'm going to resize it so we can see the blue. So just drag down a little and also drag its anchor and let's stretch it and see. So it works just as expected. Now for the label, resize it and drag its anchor points as well. Alright, so we'll just drag this as well. Then we'll add a text. Let's say super awesome game. Awesome game. We'll toggle on the uppercase property and set its anchor and vertical alignment to center. Alright, let's change its font size in the theme override section to probably 30. Okay, maybe 20. Alright, let's rename the node. Rename this to white panel. So click and write white panel. Now I'm going to add a VBox container, which is a child of the box container. And we also have a HBox container, which is a child of the box container node. And the VBox is going to arrange its child controls node vertically. We'll also set its anchor to the full rect. Now the vertical box takes the full rect of our white panel. Let's add its texture. So add a texture button node, and in the asset folder, I'll look for the yellow button texture. And in the texture section, drag yellow button 00 to normal and yellow button 01 to pressed. Alright, I'm going to rename the texture button to start button. So start button. Then set a stretch mode to keep aspect centered. Then I'm going to toggle on the ignore texture size. Actually, we don't need to. And then we want to toggle on the expand property in the container sizing section. Alright, let's add a label node, and we'll set its anchor preset to the full rect. We'll center the text, and for the text, we'll write start game. So start game. Then set it to uppercase, which is going to set our text to all caps. Alright, now I'm going to duplicate this. So just hold Ctrl+D and duplicate it 2 more times, and you can see how all the buttons are properly aligned vertically on the container. And we'll need to add some margin. So add a margin container node and drag this up and drag the vertical box container so it's a child of the margin container. Then we'll set the anchor preset to full rect. Alright, and in the theme override section, we will add margin to the left, top, right, and bottom. So you can see the spacing created on all 4 corners of our container. Let's test this. And if we try stretching this out, you'll see how this works. So all elements are properly aligned and retains their position even while being stretched. Though I would recommend actually just adjusting the rectangle size than using a margin container, which won't space out the buttons too much on different ratios as you saw. We'll rename this other button to option button and the other to credit button. Change this to credit button. Let's change the label text as well. So change this to option. Option. Make sure the uppercase is toggled on. Let's see. Alright. And for the credit label too, change it to credit. Now let's change the font for our text, and there are several ways we can do this. The first, hold the Control key down and you can select all the label nodes. That way you can change their property at once without doing it individually. And in the theme override, you can change the font size and all 3 would be updated. Also, let's change the color for the start button text. So we'll change the font color for our text. So I'm going to change the color to something kind of brown. Alright, so yeah. Also, we are currently using the Godot default font, so let's change that too. So select all the nodes again with Control, and in the asset folder, there is a font folder which contains a font, and then we can just drag that to the font property. And now all label fonts has been updated as well. Great. Now a second approach will be to create a theme and attach that to the control node above all the label in the scene tree. And this will update all the text. So create a new theme, and then we'll need to add a type. So search and add the label, and you can see all the properties of the label we can change. Now click the plus icon to add a font, and then drag the Ken vector feature font to the property, and all the labels should instantly change font. So you can see how easy Godot has made this, and there are a bunch of other properties you can also change as well. And you can save this as a resource. I'm going to save this in the font folder and save this as Kenny's font. Hit save. So great. Alright, now even if I reset this and I drag the Kenny font to the theme, it applies the font setting to all label node. Great, let's save this actually. And the last I'd like to show you is using the project setting. Search for theme, and you can add a custom theme, or you can add a custom font. So we can use the previous theme we created, or we can just make use of the Ken vector font. You will need to save and restart the entire project for this. And now this is going to be the font used in your entire project. So yeah, the font was being used for all our labels. Let's check the previous example as well. And yeah, these two. So great. All this all comes down to which you like, but personally, I prefer to use the second example, which is what I use in most of my projects. Let's also change the option and credit button texture as well to the blue button. We'll just drag that. So drag blue 00 and blue 01. Great, looking very nice. Let me just reset this back real quick. Now if we run the scene, everything works perfectly as expected. And if we resize this also works too.